Here, a boy named Năm Cam, was born into hardship. His father was a tailor, but the streets were his real school. Năm Cam learned to hustle, to fight, to read the unwritten rules of survival. This story doesn't start in a palace, it begins in the gritty alleys of District 4, Old SaiGon. Here, a boy named Năm Cam, was born into hardship. His father was a tailor, but the streets were his real school. Năm Cam learned to hustle, to fight, to read the unwritten rules of survival. He wasn't born bad, but the world around him was a pressure cooker. From a young age he had a spark, a refusal to accept his fate. He watched the tough guys command respect and fear, and he wanted in. He started with petty crimes, each one a lesson in human nature and opportunity. He realized a sharp mind could be deadlier than a knife. His first real crime landed him in juvenile detention, a place meant to reform, but for him, it was a university of the underworld. There he learned the codes, the hierarchy, and the brutal reality of hidden power. Instead of breaking him, it forged him. The boy from District 4 was becoming a name whispered in tea houses and gambling dens. Năm Cam wasn't just a brute, he was a strategist. He understood true power wasn't about winning fights, it was about controlling the game. He learned who to befriend, who to intimidate, and who to eliminate. His early years were a masterclass in observation, soaking up the knowledge of the streets. Brick by painful brick, he was building his foundation. The groundwork for an empire was being laid. The alleys of District 4 had given birth to a new kind of player. Năm Cam's name began to carry weight. He was no longer just a boy, he was an idea that would soon cast a long, dark shadow over SaiGon. The journey had only just begun. Every legend has a mentor. For Năm Cam, it was DeChe, the king of SaiGon's underworld. The lessons weren't in classrooms but in smoky backrooms and high-stakes games. DeChe ruled with charisma and fear, and Năm Cam quickly proved he belonged. He learned organization, logistics, and the art of protection rackets. More than muscle, he became a student of power, absorbing every detail. He saw the strengths and flaws in DeChe's leadership. Năm Cam began to shape his own philosophy. Power in the shadows, not the spotlight. He learned to run illegal casinos, manage money, and command loyalty. The Cathay school gave him skills, connections, and credibility. When the old-school gangsters faded, Năm Cam was ready. He'd learned from the best, and was prepared to build something bigger, smarter, and far more dangerous. The apprentice was ready to become the master. The underworld was about to change. After prison, Năm Cam returned with a new vision. The old ways were over. He would become a system, not just a gangster. He built his empire on greed and corruption, not just fear. His genius was turning protectors into partners, bribing, cultivating, and controlling officials. He made his criminal enterprise look legitimate, operating through frontmen and shell companies. Instead of one big gang, he ran a network of smaller crews, outsourcing the dirty work. If one fell, the rest survived. He was the spider at the center of a vast web, pulling strings from the shadows. Năm Cam could make legal problems vanish, bankrupt rivals, and orchestrate violence from afar. He was more than a crime boss, he was a phenomenon. He bent the law to his will. The boy from District 4 had become a shadow emperor. His power was almost untouchable. But every empire has its limits, and every shadow eventually meets the light. Every empire faces a challenger. For Năm Cam, it was Dung Ha, a fearless, flamboyant force from the north. She arrived in SaiGon, demanding her share of the underworld. At first, Năm Cam tried to contain her, giving her a piece of his operations. But Dung Ha refused to be subordinate. She wanted equality. She openly defied him, disrupting his businesses and humiliating him with bold stunts. The alliance soured into a bitter rivalry. Dung Ha's provocations escalated, threatening Năm Cam's image of absolute control. For him, respect was everything, and she was dismantling it. The situation reached a breaking point. On October 2, 2000, as Dung Ha sat outside her home, a single gunshot ended her life. The Phoenix was slain. But this act, meant to restore order, unleashed a storm. The veil over Năm Cam's empire was about to be ripped away. The kingpin had made his most fatal move. The endgame had begun. Dung Ha's assassination was the spark that ignited a national firestorm. Her death exposed the rot beneath Năm Cam's empire. the government launched a special task force, Z501, to dismantle his organization. The hunt was on. Investigators faced a wall of silence, built from fear and corruption. Năm Cam, confident in his protection, underestimated their resolve. But the detectives were relentless, flipping informants, tracing money, and finding cracks in his shield. They targeted corrupt officials, causing panic within his ranks. The net tightened. On December 12, 2001, while visiting a friend, Năm Cam was quietly arrested. No shootout, no chase, just the end of an era. The Shadow Emperor was in disbelief. His fortress had finally been breached. The kingpin was captured. The countdown to justice had begun. The trial of Trung Van Cam was a national spectacle, the largest in Vietnam's history. 155 defendants stood accused: enforcers, frontmen, family, and corrupt officials. The prosecution exposed the syndicate's inner workings: extortion, violence, and a web of bribery. Witnesses, once silenced by fear, now spoke out. Năm Cam tried to appear calm, claiming innocence and shifting blame, but the evidence was overwhelming. His own lieutenants testified against him. The verdict was inevitable: guilty of murder, bribery, and illegal gambling, sentenced to death. The trial marked the end of his reign. It was a declaration: no one is above the law. The Shadow Emperor's fate was sealed. Năm Cam's final days were spent in a death row cell, his empire gone, his power meaningless. On June 3, 2004, he was executed by firing squad. The most feared man in Vietnam's underworld died quietly. His case triggered a national reckoning, exposing the links between crime and corruption. It led to a sweeping anti-corruption campaign and the prosecution of many officials. Năm Cam's legacy is a cautionary tale. Ambition without morality leads to ruin. His empire crumbled to ashes. His name became a warning. The story of Năm Cam is a mirror for a society in transition. It's a reminder, even the mightiest empires can fall. No shadow is so dark that light cannot break through. The boy from District 4 built a kingdom on sand, and the storm washed it all away.